Woe, creature upon thee. Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty good myself. But today I wanted to talk to you guys about Fate Grand Order First Order, the movie that is connected to the story of Fate Grand Order. In fact, it is the opening section of the game that you will play through when you first pick it up. The movie, as the name implies, is connected to the Fate series and the larger Nasuverse as a whole, but we are going to gloss over some of those details for now because it's outside of the scope of the movie. And how I'm going to break this down is we're going to go over 3 different sections based upon how I like to view and look at animation, shows, films, anime, etc. That being 1, the writing, 2, in this case, since it's anime, it's going to be the animation quality, and that'll encompass stuff like animation, cinematography, camera angles, how things look. Then 3rd, we'll just have my general cool factor. Alright, so first up, we've got the writing. Without decent writing, a show will fall apart no matter how pretty it is. There's bunches of shows that fall into that category. And to sum it up really quickly, it's fairly well. Like, it's not the greatest in the world, it's got its issues here and there, mostly in the pacing category, but it does proceed pretty well. And to give you guys a quick rundown of the show, we follow Ritsuko, who is our main character, who is also joined by Mash Kyrielite. If you've played the game, you know these 2 characters are our main characters. Ritsuko being the player character in the game, and Mash being a very, very important supporting character who is almost really a second character in her own right. Now this takes place right before the first mission of their organization, Chaldea, and Ritsuko promptly joins and then is excused from the first mission, but in the end gets drawn back in. Typical anime stuff. What is very nice though is the character moments in the setup area. For instance, Mash and Ritsuko talking to each other, forming a little bit of a bond. You get to see another character early on, Lef, as well as Dr. Roman, and you get to see a little bit of Director Olga as well, all of whom are important characters in the setting and will be important later on. Now, proceeding from this, we get to our inciting incident of a grand catastrophe going to befall humanity, and the organization of Chaldea trying to go and fix it through some time travel shenanigans. We're not going to worry about that too much right now. At the end of the line, though, there's a explosion in the facility, lots of things go wrong, and Ritsuko and Mash end up in another timeline where there's a Holy Grail War going on that has gone awry. A Holy Grail War, if you don't know, is when a bunch of mages get together and throw hands until there's only one left standing for a chance to get a wish. And it is literally like a genie in a lamp type wish where you can wish for anything. Sometimes it works out well, sometimes it's a monkey's paw. Well, in this one, something has gone very wrong and there are no people left. They're all dead, and the remaining servants, those being the superpowered familiars and of the mages that would be fighting, are seemingly corrupted and all that's left. Except for one. This one remaining sane servant comes to the support and rescue of our cast as they're trying to figure out what is going on in this horrible post-apocalyptic timeline they find themselves in. And through this encounter and a couple of battles, we find out that the Grail is still around and is being guarded by these corrupted servants. So our heroes set off to go fight the remaining servants and bring an end to this Grail War and hopefully restore the timeline. Pretty soon after, they do encounter the remaining servants and have a grand battle and beat the Saber Servant, who is essentially the final boss of this encounter. But as things often are in these types of settings, there's more going on, and it is soon revealed that there is someone who's been pulling the strings from behind the scenes the whole time. I won't spoil this for you if you're not familiar with it, so go watch the film yourself. Now, if that seems like a lot of stuff to be packed into a very short period of time, it's 'cause it is. I've played Fate Go. I'm not a huge fan of Fate Go, but I do play it a little bit here and there. And this takes place over a lot of dialogue, and there's a lot more build up to it. So the pacing here feels a little bit rushed. There's not much time and setup for the characters to get to know what's going on or to interact with each other to get a lot of character development here. Now, it is a hour, 20 minutes movie, give or take a minute here or there. So I can't fault it too much for trying to condense a whole subsection of Fate Go's story into a 120-minute movie, but that is going to be a little bit of a demerit on my side. However, it is held together pretty well. It tells you what you need to know, it doesn't tell you what you don't need to know, it doesn't drown you in Fate lore, which I also think is a plus. So overall, I think the presentation of the story with how it's written is pretty good. Nothing jumped out at me, nothing broke my immersion. I thought it was alright. Now second, we come to animation, and this is a little bit of a mixed bag. Overall, I think the animation quality is fairly good. It is not stellar, it is not terrible. You know, it's not something that is brimming with life and beauty the way things like Mushoku Tensei or Frieren or the awesomely animated parts of Jujutsu Kaisen or any other of any period show that has done incredible stuff. And it's also not got the bottom of the barrel stuff like a direct to VHS or CD anime from the 90s or something like Garzy's Ring, which it would be impressive if they got that bad. That said, there is some use of 3D animation, which I personally do not like, but that is a personal choice, and while that's a demerit for me, that might not be for you. Also, there is some really cool animation in here that are not show-stopping, but enough to get your attention and make you go, wow, that's cool. Like this. Or this. And look at this dude. I know I just said I didn't like 3D animation, but this dude's a unit. He's freaking cool. That said, there are a couple of parts of the show that are a little bit stank, like this. Or this. And even though it was cute, the opening bit that I opened with, it looks a little bit silly in practice. Also, Foe, the little squirrel creature, he kind of changes size here and there throughout it. It's one of those things where once you notice it, you don't unnotice it, but it's not a huge deal. So overall, I would give it an average rating. It's got some good points, it's got some low points, but overall, nothing brought me out of the experience. Now for the last one, which is my personal favorite, of course, the subjective personal cool factor, I think Fate's cool. So I think it's pretty cool. I think the presentation, especially the fight with Saber, was done pretty good. I think it could have used a little bit more pizzazz, but overall, seeing Saber unleash Excalibur, especially with the cool color palette for Saber Alter, I think, even though it's a bit power of friendship anime tropey, I really like the scene with Ritsuko and Mash pulling her off. There were a couple of pretty bleak, pretty dark scenes in it, and I thought that was kind of a cool addition where they could have gone a little bit more milquetoast. They kind of went for it a little bit more and making sure that you know it is not a kid's show, it is in fact a dark setting in many ways that you're going to be dealing with. If you are aware of the other properties and titles and series in the Nasuverse, that may be apparent to you, but if it may not be apparent to you if you're new to this setting, so keep that in mind. Personally, I dig it. So at the end of the day, after getting done with the movie, I sat back and I thought, man, that was a good movie. I didn't dislike that. I didn't think it was the greatest in the world. It was a fine show. And if you would go to my Mal right now and search me up and look at what I gave the show, that's exactly what I put. It's a fine show. It's a 6 out of 10. No shame in that. It is a entertaining show. It is quick, hour 20. It's very digestible. It doesn't hit you with a bunch of stuff. It doesn't pull its punches to the point that you're bored. Some pacing issues, some animation issues, but there's a lot of cool stuff in there as well. So overall, I think you should give it a watch, especially if you want to get into Fate and you just want a bite-sized chunk that's fairly digestible and you don't want to try and find a million different ways to get into it, and you just want one thing that you'll watch and you'll go, I like this, I want to look into it more, or maybe this isn't my thing. That's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoy the movie if you go out and watch it, and if not, maybe next time on the channel I'll review something that's a little bit more your speed. Until next time, guys, peace.